It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about joy, J-O-Y, down in my heart, deep, deep down in my heart. Jesus put it there, and no one can destroy. I've got joy down in my heart. So we'll get to that conversation right after these important messages. This episode of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast is presented by Faulkner University. Faulkner University is a private Christian liberal arts university based in Montgomery, Alabama, with a mission to provide an education anchored by not only intellect, but also character and service. The Faulkner experience aims to educate the whole person. Every individual matters every day. We all want to become better versions of ourselves. No one wants to remain trapped where they are because of missed opportunities and unrealized dreams. At Faulkner University, we believe your dreams don't have an expiration date. We understand that you're looking for more than a degree. You want to find your niche and thrive in your career. Whether you're a high school senior just beginning your trek or an adult student looking for a better path, Faulkner is here to help guide your journey. Go to faulkner.edu to apply or get more info. That's faulkner.edu. I'm Travis Creasy from Fayetteville, Tennessee, Riverside Christian Academy, campus minister, Bible teacher, all that good stuff. That is all pro counselor and pulpit minister at Highland Park Church of Christ in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Ben Hayes, what's going on, man?
I am feeling it from 2 days of being on the slopes of all the icy slopes of Alabama with all of this snow that we had. It's about melted off now, but it's been a fun couple of days. And part of that was spent with Mr. Will Mahan. So how you doing, Will?
I'm doing good. It was a great couple snow days. I just dropped Emmy off with Ben's family. So he did more of the tackling, or I think Emmy tackled him more than she played with Lindsay and I. So we've just had a really good time.
Of course, Will is the youth minister at Highland Park Church of Christ and certainly helps us out a lot here at Ben and Travis and benandtravis.com. I feel like we are all about that joy around here, helping healing humor. Those all play into the idea of joy. The last podcast, we talked a little bit about overcoming the January blues. We're going to continue that thought process and not just overcoming, but thriving in January. We are got a few big things going on. Bryce is sending us updates on our videos this year. We're doing new videos for Dallas. Usually that started for Pigeon Forge. We do new ones at Pigeon Forge, reveal them at Dallas the next year. This year, we're going new across the board to start. We've got the Adventures of Ben and Travis has gone to print. And so we're waiting on those, and certainly the hoping and praying, you can pray along with us, that the snow does not knock off our time frame to get those books in hand for our trip to Dallas. And of course, mention the snow. We like to get out in it and get after it. And so maybe, just maybe for us, I don't know that we can look at January as a mundane January. As we've had several days off, I'm currently actually sitting in my pajama pants right now. It's like 9 p.m. And the only time I've been out of them is to go out and slip and slide down this monstrous hill behind my house. And so check out all of our different platforms. You can catch all of our football predictions that I've been horrible at. You can pick up the Friday Refresh, which is Ben's 3 to 5 minute motivational podcast and video, and you can see us slipping and sliding on the slope some too. So just check all that out. And of course, it's easier to get all of that at benandtravis.com. But joy it is, fellas. Maybe mention one thing that would give you joy if your January was mundane.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not sure how mundane my January is going to be. Of course, we just got through, as we've already mentioned, all of this snow. And of course, the last couple of years, it feels like we've gotten at least one good one. And that's been awesome. So we played in it last year and played in it this year. One of the things that keeps January hopping is getting ready for Dallas. And so, hadn't had a whole lot of mundane even after. I guess one of the things with in the wake of Christmas, you have all those gifts that you open, you have all of that time with family, and it seems like, I don't know if this is the case with you guys, it seems like there for like 2 weeks you're just opening presents and you're throwing them down, and when you get in the house you throw them somewhere in some corner, and then you start discovering them in the weeks to come. And so I think some of the things that are fun to me about January is kind of unpacking the holidays, not just the physical gifts, but kind of as you look back and you think about some of the things that you got to do, the people you got to see, that sort of thing. I think the unpacking of the holidays sort of helps, is just thinking back on the good stuff with the family. And I've enjoyed the last 2 years just getting a couple of extra days with the kids playing, after the holidays. And we've played with a lot of those games and stuff that they got for Christmas when we were in the house. So.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a good word there that was on my mind, was reflecting and reflection. The busyness of the year, and then especially the holiday season, to me, for January, like my birthday is January the 3rd. So I tell Lindsay I always start the new year reflecting, going, I'm another year older. But kind of celebrating that. I told Lindsay I like to just go, hey, can I just have a day with maybe a couple of friends or just the family? And it just kind of eases into the new year. And so I think just the reflecting of the past, being able, I know, Travis, you say this a lot, be just where your feet are, and just to think about everything that you have going really good for you. I think in the big scheme of things, for me, like I'll wear the St. Jude, and of course I'm decked out in St. Jude today, but you just trying to perspective, in a sense, put yourself in perspective of what everybody else has going on versus what you have going on. And what I've started to realize, that sometimes the mundane of life brings about a lot of joy to me. I was ready to get back into school. I was ready for the structure, the routine, because I think some of that just keeps me moving in the direction that I want to go. And I realize not everybody gets to work at a church or at a Christian school, or take teenagers, to the beach in a couple of weeks. And so I realize our life is probably a little bit different as far as our family goes compared to others, but sometimes the mundane for me is the good. Just being able to know, hey, here's my schedule, here's what's going on in my life, here's what I need to be a part of. And then from that, it keeps the perspective where it needs to be. And I think a lot of times through the holidays, it's give me, or people are giving me more stuff. And I start to lose what I really do have, because I'm seeing what everybody else has gotten. And sometimes I go, man, I would have loved to have gotten that or that. And so to me, it's kind of maybe weird, but sitting in the mundane kind of brings about some joy, because everybody's just kind of back to normal and doing their thing. And it's not being pulled 7,000 different directions to the, 50th Christmas party.
Yeah, my kids are going to be spoiled. They're going to think every January rolls around, we should have a ton of snow. And we encourage prayer, and Haley certainly does that year round, prays for snow. And she certainly got a big answer of yes the last 2 years. And so they're going to be spoiled. They think every January is going to be this way. Maybe it will be, who knows? But man, I think we may have gotten as much snow in the last 2 years combined as I've seen since, 96 or whatever it was, where it got super dangerous there in the shoals. So I'm very happy it's not that. I'm happy the last 2 years it's been a lot safer, although I know y'all got some folks over that got some injuries hanging out and playing in it last year, but we're glad that's not the case. But yeah, joy can be in the structure. And I think even as much as the kids like being out of school, I know mine even reached that point where it's like, I want to go see my friends. I want to get back into the normal swing of things. And we certainly had that this week. Not sure how much it's going to happen this coming week, but there's certainly that case. And getting into scripture, and I would say that certainly when I was younger, scripture was not a go-to for me that necessarily joy. Now church was, I really enjoyed church. I still do. I look forward to going in the morning and being with my people. But man, the older I get, the more I do find joy in scripture, even the difficult scriptures, but coming to kind of understand life in itself, but we also can have fun. You can read Ecclesiastes, which is not my favorite book in the world, but understand that what he's trying to get across to you is as it says there's a time for everything. There's a time for happiness. There's a time for sadness. But of course, as we know, and hopefully and have experienced, joy is a little different than that, right? It's something that really isn't dependent on circumstances. And that in itself is a tremendous gift that we can think on maybe when things are a little more difficult. Ben, I know we've talked at length about, the first holiday without your dad, and it's the first everything, it's the first all this stuff. And I guess you're getting to the point now where it's going to be the second thing, second time around. But it's that joy. And I think even the scriptures there in Thessalonians, where it tells us that we don't grieve like everyone else. As Christians, we don't grieve the same, especially for those Christians who passed on. And that can be a source of joy, that it's not the last time that you're going to see so-and-so fill in the blank.
This week has kind of brought back a lot of memories from that last year, because it was, we got back from Dallas, and the moment we got back, this snow poured on us and ice. We were out for like a week, and it was the following weekend. So it would really be not this weekend or the next, but the following after that. The 22nd was the day Dad passed, but it was a Sunday morning after a snowstorm. So we'd had all the ice and everything, and we were going. I was actually at the church already trying to prepare for like a 2:00 service. Isn't that what we did, I think, last year? And we were trying to like scrape ice and all that. Mom called and ended up spending the rest of the day at the nursing home with Mom and kind of waiting on Dad to make that transition. And so, a lot of this ice and snow and the time, it was like, man, this is a great, fun time with the kids last year. And then it kind of ended in a little bit of a sour note. And so I don't know if that made me even more so again this year to go, man, let's just take every moment that we can get of it. And I just pretty much put life on pause for the last 2 days. And if they wanted to go sled or they wanted to go play outside, we tried to go play outside and go sled. So, soak in as much now, because, I know that I look really, really young and, all that good stuff, but I'm feeling it more and more every time. And so I'm like, how many more of these snow things am I going to feel like going up and down those hills and doing what I can do? So let's squeeze every ounce of it that you can out of it. And so I think that's the key in everything is it's, how can I squeeze the most out of all the stuff that we do? And sometimes squeezing the most out of it is being still and listening to God, and that be still and know that being in the quiet moment. But sometimes it's, let's do all that we can do with the kids. Cause I think about that all the time, that, there's just come a day where we don't get to do those things anymore.
Yeah, I'll kick it to you in just a minute, Will, but I did want to share something that I chuckled to myself, and it was at your dad's funeral. I'm sure we've shared it, but that moment when the gun salute goes off at your dad's funeral, and at least my older brother Bradley was not prepared and almost jumped completely out of his wheelchair. I'm really glad that he was buckled in. But I cannot help but think if Ron could have seen that or did see that, or however it works, we don't know. But that certainly would have brought a little joy to his life as it did ours. I'm sure he's not the only one that jumped.
No, I mean, I was struggling. I struggled in the funeral. I was glad I didn't have to really say anything or do anything. But I struggled through a lot of it with all the songs. But he jumped. Of course, he had his back to the door. It was kind of unfair. Everybody else could kind of see because they did the gun salute since it had been raining just outside the door of the auditorium. And so, a few of us knew that door flew open. He didn't know. He was completely oblivious to it. Of course, my mom knew. She was sitting on the pew. So I had a view of like my mom and of Bradley and several of the aunts kind of out of the corner of my eye. And when that gun went off, I think everybody jumped a little bit. Bradley, bless his heart, he just about lost everything. So
I remind him of that from time to time. And
then he got tickled and he was laughing at himself. So he's laughing. So it was a really good point of levity in the middle of a pretty tough day.
Which is interesting how you can have such a difficult day, but still have the ability to find those moments of joy. And I think that really is part of it, is looking at it and saying, the overall scope of what's going on is not, there's no excitement, necessarily in that for us. But how, and this is maybe the question I wanted to ask both of y'all, being the older, wiser people on this podcast today. How do you create a mindset to find those joyful moments? Because I think we do define happiness is, I guess, momentarily, or it's moments where the joy is through the moments of happiness and sadness. So how do you, counselor or preacher, how do you craft a mindset that finds those things?
But it is balanced and it is tough. And, Ben, you can see the gray hairs if you're watching the video. I mean, there's experience in that. I think about the family that we don't get to see, unfortunately, until something like that happens.
Yeah.
And I just think about, Ben's mentioned, squeezing everything out of it. My kids were tapping out today, and I kind of took that as a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I wore you out today. And so that there's something they can connect to, but the time is short. The Bible also speaks of redeeming the time. The days are evil. It's very easy to get trapped. And you mentioned, Will, to us, our life, probably if we unpacked what we did from a day-to-day basis, it probably doesn't line up a lot with other people. We do have kind of a different job, different perspective, but it is the people. And I think that Jesus spends so much time connecting joy with the people. And, I've seen a video this week that said, at some point we just stop having fun. It becomes almost a chore. It almost, as Ben mentioned, just, I'm setting this day aside, I'm pausing everything else, and we're going to do this. And it really takes that level of to be that intentional. And I just think about, the older I get, the more aunts and uncles that pass, and inevitably the day's coming, right? For all of us at some level, we're going to lose someone that we love. And it's really those moments that you go back on. And I think that for whatever reason, this brain, along with Ben and now Will, it's the funny parts stick in our brains. And maybe it's awkward and it's inopportune when I share those stories. But a lot of those things is what get us through. My older brother, Bradley, with cerebral palsy, he's always had a desire to laugh in moments and to see the funny, even though it's awkward and embarrassing sometimes. And he's probably laughing at you. He's not laughing with you. He's laughing at you.
Yeah.
But that's the basic, like, we only have a short window. And for a lot of people, that sounds super dark and super depressing. But once again, I don't grieve like the world grieves. I have this time. It's a gift, even the real difficult parts. But it's the people in your life, and you have such a short time. Why spend it being down or squabbling or quarreling with one another if you don't have to? I'm not speaking about things that are important, things that need to be discussed. I'm not talking about those things. It's the little things that I see people use, that I've seen Satan use to separate people, that really, when it's all said and done, will look back on and go, man, I can't believe I let that keep me from fellowshipping with this person or having a relationship with that person. I just don't want to be that guy.
I talked to somebody this week, one of my clients, and I kind of mentioned, And I mean, sometimes when I'm meeting, I don't know if this is the way it is with every counselor, but there's times when I meet with clients that oftentimes I'm talking to myself too, or, it's some things that I'm like, I should probably do a little bit better on this too. But there was a point where we were talking and I said, like of the last 2 weeks, if you just had a timeline, like what we do with the Bible sometimes or whatever, and we just on that timeline put every event that happened. How many of those events were bad? Like how many of the minutes of the last 2 weeks were bad? Because people a lot of times will say, I just had a terrible last 2 weeks. Okay, tell me what those 2 weeks, those moments were. Well, I wrecked my car, or I, something, one of the kids was sick for, part of the afternoon or for maybe a couple of days. But, even in the sickness or even at those moments, how much of that was bad? Like how many moments were bad? And a lot of times what you'll find is that it was only a few little times in that 2 weeks or in that week or sometimes in a day. We say it was a bad day. Well, a lot of times it was a bad day because we had a bad event that lasted maybe a minute or two or an hour, and we let it affect the whole 24 hours. I've spoken, I think, before on here, maybe I haven't, about the idea of, when you get ready to go on a trip and you're starting to pack up and you get in an argument with one of the kids or you get in an argument with your spouse or whatever, and you're about to do a 11-hour car ride and the first 8 hours or the first 6 hours were terrible because you were mad about some dumb little argument you had when you were getting in the car. And it's like, you just let, a 30-second issue become a 6-hour one. And it really didn't have to. And so, if we can learn to hit the reset button, if we can learn to just go, all right, that was a bad moment. This was a bad hour. This might even been a bad day, but that doesn't mean everything in the next 2 weeks gets defined by this single event. So maybe think of it as a timeline, and you might actually see there was a lot more good in that timeline than there was bad.
Travis, we need to create some like alarm on everybody's phone. It's just like reset every hour,
every couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Fix your face, reset your mind, all that good stuff.
The last thing that I was thinking about is celebrate. Even I think there was an Army veteran that was given, high-ranking official was given a commencement speech. And he said, every day, just make up your bed so that you can say, I accomplished something today. And I think in some ways, joy is being proud of yourself, being okay with what you've accomplished, whether that's, I tell Lindsay, there's not very many prouder moments that I have as a dad than when my lawn looks really good, and no one else cares. But I feel really good after I mow the lawn because it looks like I accomplished something around the house, And so I would just challenge all of us, even in the mundane weeks where we don't feel like we're doing anything, you're accomplishing a lot. Like there are things that you are doing for people, for yourself, for that employer, whoever it may be proud of yourself. Because I think when you can be proud of who you are, then ultimately you can start to find some happiness, which I think leads to a joyful life or a more joyful life. So celebrate. Brad Montague always talks about that. Go throw a random party because you did something good. And I think
I didn't say that really mean thing that I wanted to say. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Right.
He even had they now celebrate failures, like he has a thing called celebration. And it's like, go that every now and then honor the times that you really flubbed, the times that you just failed, because he says, what you did was you survived, whatever happened in that moment, you survived that failure. And it's usually the thing that kind of pushed you to do something even greater. And so I think that those are good too. And, we've been talking about, we kind of got to take the time off, and there's a lot of people that these weeks are just really terrible because, they have to be at work or they have to go stay at work for a couple of days, or, they still have to fight the snow to get to work, and they don't get to do some of the things, but, they're doing an important part too. They're giving so that a lot of other people can continue to, it's kind of like, military. They give a whole lot of their time and their energy so that the rest of us can be free. So, we all need to be thankful to them, but also they need to understand they've got a great purpose, and we're thankful for what they do, and they make it available for their families to, have food on the table and do what they do. So there's nothing, to feel bad about in any of those circumstances, whichever one it is. I talk about a lot of times with my group at Community Action. I'm there on a Saturday. A lot of times I'd rather be with my family, and I tell them that, and I know that they'd rather be with their family in those moments. But we have to think about what is it that's our priorities, and sometimes that priority is helping make money for our families and taking care of them. So whatever those things are, we recognize that it's a good thing, and we just keep on doing what we can do.
That joy, that purpose, that value. We believe in a God who's created you. If you're listening to this, you were created with a purpose. And that has got tremendous value. That's to have a relationship with God. And through that relationship, do the things that show him, the loving thing to your neighbor, that we can't earn what he's given us. It's a gift, but it's our response to what he's done is to love those around us. And it's a tremendous purpose. Fellas, themagicmind.com/BAT20, BAT20. Question of the day is, what has got you in the last few weeks LOLing, right? We use that phrase, laugh out loud, all the time, but anything that actually has you laughing out loud, maybe the crying, smiling emoji. So I'll give you a second to think about that, but that's magicmind.com/BAT20. You get up to 48% off if you're the first time subscriber. It's money back guaranteed. It's easy to cancel. I think you can do it even via text message, but I'm not planning on doing that anytime soon. So I'm not sure on that, but I have been taking it. And that's maybe one of the reasons why my kids are tapping out, because I keep going up the hill, getting on that sled and riding it back down like I'm 10 or 11 years old out in the backyard, having a blast. It certainly has helped me the last few weeks as we've had a bunch of deadlines to get some content done. And of course, throwing the fact that I'm actually working a day job too. So, man, Magic Mind's been awesome. Ben, I know that you agree that, man, it's doing the trick for me.
Well, I was doing really well when we were in school, and I should have probably taken it the last 2 days, because I didn't drink it the last 2 days while we were doing all the stuff that we're doing. But yeah, I have enjoyed that. It seems to get me through the really difficult. I've had for several weeks now, just trying to make up. I've been doing like appointments 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 back to back, and usually those are like terrible. I just crash hard, and it's been a whole lot better since I've been taking that. So good stuff at Magic Mind.
All right. So what's got me LOL? I got a couple of options here. I've had a lot of downtime, and what's got me LOLing is those clips that I don't know if you guys send them to me or I send them to you, and somebody's doing something on the internet. The internet is forever. And it's usually something goofy, and they look a little, and they're kind of mean. I'm going to go ahead and repent right here too, as I laugh out loud. But I think it's the Reddit comments. Maybe it's Twitter, which is undefeated, or X, or whatever they call it. And it just pauses at some point, and it's just the internet unloading on, and the names are the ones that get me, where they come up with the names of these famous people they're imitating. And so there's some kind of pun or something like that. And then another one is Bryce, like he's sending these videos that were recorded back in the weekend after Thanksgiving. And I was kind of sick. I wasn't feeling great. And I was like, man, my delivery was terrible. And there is one quote in there that it may be t-shirt worthy, Will, and I meant to send this to you, but we're talking about hand signals and the songs of VBS. And it's like, yeah, it's gang signs, but for church members. So if I do say so, I delivered that line, and I laughed pretty hard.
It was
I can admit to laughing at my own. I think you may have written it though, Ben. So I give you credit.
I don't even remember who wrote that one, but it was good stuff. And the videos always get me. I'll tell you, I love those that you're talking about, but I love a good, like, just fail video of people falling or crashing or slipping or, and they're both like the ones that are both painful and funny, where you're like, oh, I see what's coming. And they had to have gotten like a cracked rib or something, but it's just terrible watching it. Well, there was a real live one of those a couple of weeks ago at my house, and we actually were able to pull the footage from our security cameras. And I literally just had to sit down on the steps and laugh when it happened. But Destin was walking with some groceries in her hands. We just got back. I don't know why, instead of walking on the sidewalk that we have, they decided to walk through the grass where the inflatables for Christmas were already up, and there was a guide wire that runs, and she just didn't see it, and she face planted with everything that she had in her hands. She's in the middle of a sentence. You can't see this on the video, but middle of a sentence saying something, and I just heard her go quiet and looked, and I just see her go, and when she hit the ground, I hit the steps laughing and sat there and laughed at her, and then she gives me grief because she, I didn't go help her. I was laughing. But
best part.
But a week before, we also found the security camera of Stana doing the exact same thing at night, walking that same path, tripped and fell, and Destin was right there laughing at her. So I didn't have too much sympathy on her, but that's probably the hardest I've laughed in a while.
Karma is undefeated.
Always.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of spills since then, so it's okay.
Mine would have to be my birthday, because Lindsay and Amy and myself went out to eat at Stanfield's, a local restaurant here. And of course, we walk in and we have to wait a little bit. And she brings in this massive bag and a cookie cake. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Could we please just eat a meal and then go home and do all this? And she was like, no. And so Amy gets me a present, and you never know what Amy's going to buy, because we let Amy go to the store and buy whatever. Like, nothing's off the table. She can't read, which is probably good, because there's been a few cards that were a little sketchy. But so I'm opening my presents, and I open up this. If you're watching the video,
yes.
It's the Despicable Me fart cannon. And so, she calls it the Toot Blaster. And so
that's a better name. That's such a better name.
The Toot Blaster. So she said, Dad, this is hilarious. And of course, she's doing it there in the restaurant, and there's people all around us. And she said, in the morning, will you wake me up with the Toot Blaster? Just come put it in my ear and wake me up. Well, she gets up before I do, and it's like 6:15 in the morning, and I just hear something. And I'm still kind of in that you're awake, but you're not awake. And I can just feel it just up around my ear. And then she just goes off, and it's just fart noises. And she's just giggling and losing her mind, And so we've had a lot of fun. We hit Ben and Dr. Laws at Marcel.
Yeah.
With the Toot Blaster, And of course, what scared me is, as soon as we pull into the parking lot, Amy always gets in the front seat, and she rolls the window down, and she starts looking to see if any of her friends are in the cars behind us, pointing this gun like out the window. And I'm like screaming at her, going, roll the window up till we get to Ben and Miss Chandler and Dr. Laws and all of them. Because I was like, I don't know. No one's going to know that it's a Toot Blaster.
Jeep's got a gun. It's got a gun.
It's North Alabama, man. Everybody be packing.
We're like freaking out. So the Toot Blasters brought a lot of joy to our house over the past.
Good stuff.
Hey, parents and young adventurers, are you ready to embark on an extraordinary journey? Introducing The Adventures of Ben and Travis and the Worry Coaster, a thrilling ride through the ups and downs of mental health in our new children's book. Join our dynamic duo as they navigate the twists and turns of their emotions while discovering the courage to conquer their worries. Pre-order your ticket to adventure now at benandtravis.com/books and be among the first to embark on this roller coaster of resilience. Let's turn worry into wonder and empower kids to embrace their feelings with bravery and hope. Buckle up. It's going to be an unforgettable ride.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.